Good morning, everybody, and welcome to this misty African dawn where the sun has yet to peep up over the eastern horizon, but there is a layer of mist descended into the valleys of the great Mulwati drainage line and, well, the other drainage lines that dot the Lowveld area here. You are on a live dawn safari. My name is James Henry. On camera today we have got Brian, the buff thumb joueur. Brian, what is the thumb today?
Yeah, just the regular suit and tie in the morning.
Regular suit and tie for the morning, very good. Even though it's Sunday, the thumb is hard at work. Now, like I say, you're on a live safari, and it would be very good to talk to you over the course of the next 3 hours, especially if we don't happen to find anything. But even then, it would still be good to talk to you. Hashtag Safari Live if you're tweeting, or questions at wildearth.tv. That would be wonderful to hear from you. Now, there's an impala, and that is a slightly distressing sight, to be honest, because we heard many lions calling during the course of the early morning, and I know many of you did. Kath, at least Kat and Lucy, various others from the dam cam you heard. Laura. But we don't know where that male lion's gone. Jamie did have tracks of one male heading towards Arethusa, so she's just following up there. We're going to go around sort of to the other direction and see if we can't pick the tracks up coming out the other side. And that's going to be the plan for the first part of the morning. We'll see if we can't find him. I thought maybe there was more than one, but I think maybe just the one so far. We haven't found any further tracks. Anyway, that's the story so far. Something else I wanted to tell you. Oh yes, it's 15 degrees Celsius, so that's not very cold, 59 degrees Fahrenheit, so it's a relatively pleasant winter temperature. In fact, it's a really good winter temperature. So let's head, we're going to turn around, head down to the south, and then we're going to come back, cut back up towards the sort of western edges of Djuma and see if we don't pick up any tracks of the male lion. And with any luck, we'll have him roaring his last before he goes to sleep in the shade. You're most welcome, like I say, and let's go and enjoy this little exploration of Djuma. That's the little reserve we're on. Arethusa to the west, Cheetah Plains to the east, all part, of course, of the Greater Limpopo Transfrontier Park. 8 million...
And a blanket.
Now, what are you going to do when the temperature drops to sort of 15 or 5 degrees?
I'll bring my duvet.
Your duvet, good idea. Roger, you say that going out, something about going out with an exceptionally elegant thumb. I missed the last bit. Brian, you got it? No. Oh, you feel underdressed, Roger. Well, Roger, you can always go to your cupboard and don your Sunday best. It is, after all, Sunday. It should always look one's best on Sunday, don't you think, Brian?
Indeed.
Yes. Right, well, we're going to go at slightly faster pace now and see if we can't pick up these tracks. Let's go across to Jamie. She'll tell you about the tracks that she's got, and I'll catch up with you later.
Good morning, and welcome to our portion of the Sunrise Safari, and it seems as though James has already filled you in on the happenings and the comings and the goings of the lions, and that's why I'm going relatively fast, because I've got a funny feeling that these lions are, if they haven't already, about to cross west out of our traverse area and into Simbambili. I'm trying to walk relatively quickly. There's some very... Hello, little one. Oh, little steenbok, sorry. We've got to go because I think the elephants have just met the lions. They're trumpeting away. And I'm so excited I forgot to introduce myself. My name is Jamie. And this morning I will be co-piloting along with James, and I have VM on camera with me. Hey, mug of coffee there, mug of coffee Milo, making an appearance. I've got my mug of tea, different strokes for different folks. Oh, And just, you have to see this. No, actually you don't. You don't need to see this yet because we're busy. And these elephants have, I think, found the lions. There was a, whoopsie. All right. Hello. Hello, girl. What's got you so upset? It's not me. Not me, girlie. Oh. Maybe it was just a tantrum. Yes, no, I don't see a lion. But I don't see the lion's tracks either. He might well have been walking along the drainage line behind them. Hello, girl. Lovely. Slightly toning down the start of the morning. Giving her plenty of space just because she didn't look terribly impressed with me, and she's got a little a little cheeky calf there to take care of. A couple of little cheeky calves. One of them just starting to get its tusks through. Was it you lot causing all of that commotion? I think so. I think that answers that question. Little micro trumpet from one of them. All right. I think we might just have had a tantrum more than anything else. There's a size difference about 1.5 years growth makes. The elephant in front is about 1.5 years older than the one at the back. Probably close to maybe 4.5, 5 versus the 3 years of the little calf on the left. That's when elephants do the greatest part of their growing. We're on the road known as Power Lines Road, just in case there's some of you who were wondering about the poles that are in your shot. I do want to try and follow where these lion tracks go. I'm trying to decide what I want to do, if I want to stay with the elephants or if I want to race around, just because I have a feeling that those lions are on their way to crossing, or at least one of them is, and I don't see their tracks, and I think that those elephants might have been trumpeting at the lions. I think for now we're going to leave these ellies. There's plenty of ellies around, so we will come back to them. And you know me, you know I'd hate to do stuff like that. But if we want to get a glimpse of these lions, I think that our time period might be a bit limited. We have had so many elephants over the last few days. We've been absolutely spoiled for elephants. And Alyssa, you are wondering whether or not, with the influx of elephants, it makes tracking harder. I think the person that you should ask is currently sleeping, and Brent having a lion after a couple of exhausting days. But he spent probably about 6, maybe 7 hours the other day trying to track down Shadow and her new cub in the block, and just couldn't manage it because the elephants had stomped all over the place and first of all chased the leopards and second of all obliterated their tracks. So yes, it does. Not that we're complaining. I mean, I'm now trying to figure out if this lion, because the last tracks I had were a little bit further away. I wonder if I shouldn't check this. Let's check this junction. Just make sure he didn't cross. They were so fresh. They were so fresh you could almost smell the lion that left them. Lions, of course, being pungent. Where did you go, boy? Okay. I'm going to check this junction carefully before coming back. Basically, we want to make sure that we're at the boundary at the point that they cross. If indeed they do. Otherwise, we can always come back if they have decided to be lazy and settle down for a bit of a snooze. Let us make our way. Now, we're looking for the biggest of the cats that we get out here, but a couple of updates for you on the different leopards. For those of you who missed there's these tracks there. We're not stopping to look at them. We can come back to look at them in a moment, but they are going straight towards the boundary. Ooh, come on, lions. This is where it gets tricky now, because there's Arethusa just to the west of us, and there's Simbambili just to the north of that. And we can only drive on Arethusa. Now, the lions' tracks are going straight towards the boundary of those two properties. If they go on to Arethusa, then we're good. If they don't, then there's nothing we can do. We just have to wait for them to come back towards us. There's no female tracks. This is one lone male's tracks. His tracks have just gone off the road and in here. Now, on a morning like this morning, when you're tracking and you're following lions, it's really important to remember that just like us, they don't want to be wandering through the wet grass and the wet bushes. Now, I know that James showed you how incredibly misty it is, and I'm not going to be looking at you for the moment just because I am trying to track at the same time. He's still there. James showed you how misty it is. It's also exceptionally dewy. Everything is damp. This morning when I got into the Mahindra, because I'm an idiot and didn't park it under cover last night, I came away particularly cold and shivering. And lions are exactly the same. The lions are going to want to walk down the roads so that they don't have to brush up against soaking wet bushes. And him making his way straight towards the Balanites junction. And this lion, in the last, VM, when did you hear him calling? At about 5:05 outside the room. 10 past 5. 10 past 5 he was outside DRC, which is our camp. And in the time it took us to get out, get on the vehicles, go live this morning, he's already covered a distance of at least 2 kilometers. Just walking, normal speed. He's gone off the road again. Oh no, that's not good. That's not good at all, because he's gone off that way to the west of us. And that's exactly where we didn't want him to go, because that will take him, where he's gone off the road, that's going to take him straight into Simbambili. Tisk. We're going to try though. We're going to try. So we'll slow down a little bit. Now I need to do some chatting on the Western Game Drive channel, find out if they've already found this lion on their side. While I do that, let's go back to James, find out his plans for the morning.
Well, we haven't found anything either, anyone. Well, we did see one steenbok, to be very fair to ourselves. Not so, Brian.
Yes.
We mustn't oh, look. Ground hornbills. We'll just let them land, everyone. They are a little nervous. We also have a spectacular shot here of the sun. And we're going to let those ground hornbills just calm down slightly. We'll have a look at the sun, and then we will go and have a look at them. They're very rare birds, in case you're wondering why I got so deeply excited about some flapping birds. But just have a look here quickly. I believe I might even take a picture, Brian, if you can believe it. A rather lovely shot of the sun coming up. Very nice indeed. There, I took a picture, Brian. It's a very rubbish picture, I have to tell you. Never mind. Luckily, I have 7,000 other pictures of the sun. We're just also listening, of course. It's always a good idea to stop and listen to see if you can hear perhaps some lions calling. I think these lions have called their last, and I think, as Jamie has correctly said, I'm pretty sure that they have departed from here and gone to Simbambili. That's certainly what we heard. Anyway, we'll go and have a look at the ground hornbills, see what they are doing this morning. Endeavour Armchair Traveller, you say that ground hornbills are so beautiful when they fly. I tend to agree with you. I think that they're very, very beautiful most of the time, but especially when they fly. Right, my photographic skills are such that I think we should just press on. There we go. One shot of the sun. Absolute rubbish. Okay. Brian, yours is beautiful, however.
Oh, thank you.
You've done a spectacular job there of photographing the sun. Let's go ahead. Now, ground hornbill, everyone, one of the 4 hornbill species that we get here, the least closely related to the other 3, being the red-billed, yellow-billed. Sorry, Jamie's just talking. She says she can hear the lions. So we're going to go up ahead here and just see if we can't spot the hornbills and then stop. So yellow-billed, red-billed and grey hornbills are the 3 others. Do you see them anywhere, Brian? You do. You're a genius. Oh, there we are. Let's stop right here. These ones substantially larger and very good at hiding behind bushes, aren't they, Brian? Yes. Coming into view now, yes. Enormous turkey-like bird with a chisel on its face for bashing into the shells of termites, not termites, tortoises. A termite is not the same as a tortoise, Brian.
Yeah, the shells are much softer.
They are, yes. Roger, you say you've never seen one of these before. That's excellent. I hope you've put your suit on in celebration of seeing your first ground hornbill. They are endangered, Roger, so it's not a surprise that you haven't seen them before. And they're endangered, of course, because they nest in tree holes. Well, that's one of the reasons. And how on earth do you think a bird like that would fit in a tree hole? The tree would have to be very large. And, of course, well, one of the thoughts is that because of the fact that there are many elephants around, the elephants tend to push over many of the large trees, so the nesting opportunities for these birds has reduced. I personally think that that's probably nonsense. I think it's probably because of human encroachment, and areas where elephants didn't used to occur, you probably found more ground hornbills than you do now. And I'm pretty sure it's because of people, not elephants, that we are not seeing as many ground hornbills as we once did. But many, many projects underfoot to try and save them. Yeah, they're running again. Jen B, nice question from you. You want to know about trumpeter hornbills and whether they occur in this sort of area. They don't really occur here. They do occur in the Sabi Sands and they do occur in the Greater Kruger. It's mainly in wetter areas. So wherever there is a permanent river or a perennial river, you will normally find a trumpeter hornbill. And everybody, if you're wondering what a trumpeter hornbill is, I'm going to just play you the call, because it is the most amazing sort of baby-like wail. It's horrid. Well, I mean, it's distressing if you don't know what it is. Hornbill. Here we go. Just listen to this, everyone. Imagine how disconcerting that would be. That is the trumpeter hornbill, everybody. It is absolutely horrifying. Anyway, you get that one here as well, and you also would, well, not here, but in the Sabi Sand sometimes, you might also find the crowned hornbill. And they're all very similar to the red-billed and yellow-billed. That chap is obviously distantly related to them. And seems to be very ancient. The other interesting thing, it's got an open beak, so the beak doesn't close particularly. So if you look at my hand there, you can see that there's a gap between my forefinger and my thumb, and they've got one of those sort of gaps. And the only other bird that I know of that has that is the open-billed stork.
Lovely.
Thank you. Yes, I couldn't resist that. Kermit the Frog. And I don't know why they have them. And I need to do a bit of research on why there should be that little gap, why the upper and lower mandibles are not flush with each other. Joey, you want to know how common they once were before they became endangered? Joey, I don't know. I doubt they were ever particularly common, but I suspect you'll find that they used to occur in areas up towards the mountains where there are very large trees and there are forests where they can probably live, and then all the way down the drainage line areas, the big perennial rivers where there are very large trees, and they would have existed there. I really am not convinced that elephants and their attentions on trees have made any massive difference to their existence. I'm far more convinced that it is the encroachment of human populations outside of protected areas that have affected them, and I suspect quite strongly that they're not ideally suited to this kind of habitat, and that's why they're not common here. They also, of course, get poached for their body parts because they look quite exotic, and so I think they are used bits and pieces in traditional medicine now and then. And Carla, you want to know if anyone's thought of creating nesting areas for these birds? Yes, well, that's exactly what they do, and that's one of the major parts of the program, is to create false nesting sites or nesting boxes into which they can climb and, you know, they can set up shop, and they seem to be fairly effective at doing that. The other thing they do, just hear a crested barbet there. The other thing that they do is lay 2 eggs, one of which they will completely neglect. So once they do lay eggs and once they hatch, the researchers go into the nests, take out one of the chicks, and then raise them sort of singly on their own, with other sort of kidnappees, if you like, and then they release those flocks into the wild. And that seems to be relatively effective, because they wouldn't, you know, they'd be neglected and they would die anyway, the second chick. The other interesting thing about that, of course, is that they take 9 years before they'll actually breed. And 9 years is a long time out here, and for any organism to get to 9 years of age, it's done pretty well. There's an elephant. All we're going to see, Brian, I'm afraid, is a grey shadow in the trees. You see them there. That's the best view of this chap we're going to get, I'm afraid. I'm just listening. Nathan, interesting question from you. You want to know how many elephants there are in the area. Well, in this particular area, 1. But in the Kruger National Park, we think probably about 15,000. And we're not completely sure at this stage. Well, that was the kind of last count. So in the Greater Kruger National Park, the Greater Limpopo Transfrontier Park, probably about 15,000 elephants. And yeah, that population's probably relatively stable at the moment, maybe going up a little bit. It's definitely going to take a knock if we have a very large drought now. Now, Jamie's just turning around there. I've just seen her in front of me. I was going to check the clearings, but clearly there's nothing in those clearings there. She had tracks of the lions heading down towards this area, and she also heard one back towards the camp. So I think we're going to turn around and go back up what we call Zoe's Road and see if we can't find some further tracks there. Anyway, keep an eye on the dam cam. You might find that one of them pitches up there. We'll just do a quick turn around here. Oh goodness, that's not good driving. Now, Teresa, the reason we're not going off there to look at that elephant, everyone, is that we're not allowed to go off-road for elephants anymore. That's because of the drought, and it just reduces our impact. And hopefully we'll see some others fairly soon. Teresa, you want to know if elephants born into it will stay it'll herd for life? The answer is no, not if they're bulls, yes if they're cows. So if they're female, they will remain in the natal herd, and if they're bulls, by the time they're sort of 17 or so, maybe a bit earlier, they'll be tossed out by the older females who will get sick and tired of their rambunctious ways. It's a good morning word, that, don't you think, Brian? Rambunctious.
Rolls off the tongue.
It does roll off the tongue, yes. Right, let's go across to Jamie and get an update from her on her lion tracking. I'll see you on quarantine.
Oh, I have relatively interesting news for you. So the lion didn't cross the boundary. I did not find a single track wandering across. Even though it is a main road, at this time of the morning it's the perfect time to go and look for tracks before the vehicles start driving up and down. And I don't know where he's gone. He's vanished. There's lions calling a little bit further to the north around Gallagher shortcut and Vubu roadside, and we'll start heading in that direction. But this male lion has got to be somewhere around here. I'm just going to get hold of James on the Game Drive channel, since he does have our lovely tracker on board. I'm going to try. Let's not have 10 million radios going at once. Go ahead, James. James, last track's on Impala Road, to the north of the Balanites Junction. Probably about just where that road starts curving a bit more to the east. That's where I had the last track. If you go from Impala Plains and you go north along Impala Road, they're about, the last track I had was about 200 meters north along that road. Oh, James. Which Balanites Junction? The only one connected to Impala Road. I'm not sure. I suspected they were going west, but I'm not 100% sure. There we go. So James is going to bring Herbert here, and he's going to track down this lion for us. So what I think we'll do is, rather than focusing too hard and trying to track through here, we'll leave Herbert to do his thing, and he does do it exceptionally well, and we'll go and check Sydney's dam in the northern area, because apparently there were lionesses seen on the dam camera. The lionesses, the Nkumas have been around and about. They've been incredibly spread out. I'm sure there is at least one lion on the property. Joey has raised a point while I check really, really carefully. Joey would like to know how many times he thinks we've driven past a lion without realizing. And the answer is not as many times as I've probably driven past a leopard without noticing, but probably a depressingly large amount. That being said, at this point, after practicing for a long time, you do get quite good, in theory, at picking up cat shapes in the bushes. You drive around, if you think about it, you look at trees for 90% of your day, or at least 90% of the time that you're out doing a game drive. And as a result, anything that is not a tree, a bush, or a blade of grass kind of sticks out a bit. But I'm sure I have driven past many, many lions. And I noticed when we went to the Kruger National Park, Brent and myself, not too long ago, there was a queue of cars all staring at one mating pair of lions that were hundreds of meters away. I mean, like when we go and sit in the clearings at Cheetah Plains and we look across the Mala Mala clearing, I mean, that kind of distance away from all of the vehicles. And we drove a little bit further on, and there was a lion lying in the bushes about 100 meters ahead, right next to the road, right on top of the road, with a female, also a mating pair. It does happen. Look what happened yesterday with Tundi in the tree. The tourists coming in for the very first time to visit the reserve all stopped for our lilac-breasted roller to see what we were looking at, but unfortunately missed the leopard that was lying in the tree. Luckily I've got VM on the back to help me spot as well. VM sits slightly higher and is also exceptionally good in the bush. Edmund, you were wondering what the rarest member of the cat family is in the reserve. And Edmund, it's a bit of a... It's up for debate because the black-footed or the small spotted cat doesn't technically occur here, but there might be one or two of them that wander through. So that's the smallest cat that we get. It's also one of the rarest and definitely the hardest to see. In terms of numbers, I can't tell you exactly which of the cat species is the rarest because we actually don't know. Just stop and say hello to Jackson. Morning, morning. Morning. How's it? How are you? Morning, fan. Hi, guys. Yeah, I've got his tracks going down and then off to the west, but they don't cross, or they hadn't crossed Triple M. When I checked, so I don't know if he's still on his way there, but
So you're gonna check the power line?
I'm gonna go do another loop that way. Yeah. All right. Yeah, and I think James is also bringing Herbert to go track as well. We're all gonna find this line in Zimbabwe. Cheers. Bye. Well, hopefully, Joey, if Liam and myself have driven past the lion, then hopefully the vehicle full of guests plus Taxon and Fanwell will be able to find them. We'll have to just hope. Let's go back towards our elephants. I do want to do another loop because that lion definitely went off to the west, so he's definitely on his way towards Triple M. I can't understand why I couldn't find any tracks crossing. And just by the way, we introduced Chelsea, our intern, last night. She is actually sitting on the back of the vehicle with me. She's going to be on camera now, whether she wants to be or not. So that is Chelsea, and this is Chelsea's very first game drive. You enjoying it?
Yes, it's so fun. Beautiful.
It is beautiful. It is very beautiful. And hopefully we can find a lion for Chelsea's first game drive. We've already given her elephants. Now it's time to find the big cat. Diane, you were wondering whether or not there's any sign of the two females that were seen on the dam camera around midnight. The answer is, Diane, I haven't followed up yet. Nobody's picked up on their tracks, but I will be going to double check there once I'm finished looking for this male whose tracks are so fresh that I can practically smell him. But Diane, I will be following up, and I think James will be as well. Oh. Oh. Yes, little trumpeter. You're very cute. I think you were responsible for all that noise earlier. Oh well, we find ourselves at an elephant roadblock, but this time I'm quite content to stay with him. I don't feel as rushed as I did earlier because that line hasn't crossed yet. We just had to double check. I think maybe he's gone to lie down. So we can spend a bit of time with one of my favorite animals. And this is the little calf from earlier, the one that's probably around 3 years old. The tusk's just starting to poke through. Leaning up against the trees to take the weight off for a little while. Elephant calves, particularly the males, especially the males, are often quite playful with vehicles. They don't need to, well, at this age he will need to feed as often as the adults. When they're a little bit younger and they're still feeding from their mothers, then they can expend a bit more energy because they don't have to spend as much time eating. And of course, an elephant has to spend most of its day feeding itself in order to maintain that enormous bulk. I suspect, we discussed the tracking earlier and the fact that ellies do make it more difficult if they've walked all over them. I suspect that they might actually have chased that lion a little bit through the drainage line. We've got a bull on the outskirts of the herd. Looks like quite a young male, judging just by his size. And as always, there is if you keep your eyes peeled, there's a fork-tailed drongo fluttering about every now and again. There he's sitting, waiting for the elephants to disturb insects of the area so that he can flutter forward and grab one. Oh, there he goes. There's more elephants on their way as well. So maybe it wasn't these elephants that were trumpeting at the lion. Maybe there were elephants further south when he walked past. Because it really didn't sound, to me, it didn't sound like a weaning tantrum or a tantrum from a young calf. It sounded like a cross elephant. We've seen them do it with wild dogs. The difference there, of course, is that lions could, in theory, hunt and take down an elephant. A young bull are usually the ones that they target. But that is exceptionally unusual behavior. In this area in particular, I don't think lions have been recorded hunting elephants for an exceptionally long time. But it does happen, particularly in Botswana, when the prides get desperate. Franklin? Sorry, was I interrupting you, Franklin? He's busy chirping away. The dawn chorus in full flow. Oh, I wanted to go, but now I can't. We've just got to sit in the roadblock, which is okay. There are worse traffic jams to be stuck in first thing in the morning. And obviously, as you can tell, we have done a loop, so we have returned back towards our original elephant herd. And Chris, you were wondering whether the elephants ever knock over the electricity poles. And the answer is no. It's an amazing thing. Where we sit, I can actually occasionally hear the buzz of the current running through. And if I can hear it, then the elephants definitely can. He's cute. Look, it's trying to eat straight from Mom's mouth. Very cute. Exactly the right age for weaning. So Chris, I have seen rhinos sharpen their horns on those poles. Oh, Mommy, your baby wants food. He wants breakfast. And of course, as I said, it's weaning time, almost. Time for that little one to go straight onto solids. I think, Chris, the elephants sense the current coming from the poles, and I think that does disturb them. It kind of puts them off the idea of pushing them or rubbing against them. It does occasionally happen, and sometimes they even rip up electrical cables that are underground. So it's not always the case, particularly when they've learned not to be scared of it, although they should be, because you definitely don't want to get shocked by one of these. And I've been sitting under, now I'm making myself nervous, I've been sitting under the power cable before in these vehicles, and there was a power surge that went over, and the whole power cord sort of vibrated, and my right arm went completely numb and tingly. It was the weirdest sensation. You know, we just sit with a big metal antenna. Not that I understand how such things work, but we really do. Let's reposition slightly. I think go away. There's a go away bird calling, but I think just adding to the dawn chorus itself. I'm going to try and reposition. Obviously I don't want to push these ellies. There we go, we've got a nice view there. So that we can chat a little bit about their budding tusks. And Amy would like to know, does it hurt when the tusks come through for baby elephants, rather like children teething? And how on earth would a researcher determine this? And Amy, as far as I know, when elephants' first sets of teeth erupt, and a tusk is a tooth, it is a modified incisor, it stands to reason that it hurts, because it's got to come through the gums just like any other tooth. So we know that for puppies and kittens, it hurts. That's why they like to chew things. And I mean, they don't whine about it like toddlers do. They don't scream about it and let everybody know about it. But we know that it's uncomfortable for puppies and kittens, and that's why they try and relieve some of that itchy, sore feeling by chewing on things. Our research suggests that the baby elephants actually go and target certain plants when they experience that, to chew on things like silver cluster leaf and spike thorns, which have a property that makes your mouth go very numb. And I can't think of the word now. It's just gone out of my head. But basically it takes away all of your saliva and makes your mouth go very tingly and numb. Apparently the baby elephants target that for when they have teething problems. The tusks, I'm not 100% sure, but it stands to reason. They've got to come from somewhere. I also strongly suspect that the little antelope growing their horns from the growth plates on their heads, I mean, that's bone growth, and that's very fast bone growth that has to come through the skin. And I suspect that that is also a very itchy, somewhat painful feeling. The question is, of course, that carries on from Amy's question is, do the tusks ever get uncomfortable as they continue to grow? Because an elephant's tusks do and carry on growing. We spoke about this earlier, but most of the growth will happen in their first few years, and it will slow down after that. And as we watch this big cow slowly wander off into the bushes, Georgia was wondering, how long does it take an elephant to be fully grown? And the answer is they never stop. So an elephant will never stop growing. The big bulls continue to grow, and they grow a little bit more than the females. In fact, a lot more in some of the larger elephants' cases. But as you know, they've got a life expectancy from sort of around 40 to 50, but even right up to 60 years old. And they will continue to grow throughout that time. It just slows down. So the most growth will happen in their first few years of life, and then it will slow down after that. Now, in terms of full grown in the ability to reproduce, so when they reach sexual maturity, for both the bulls and the cows, it's usually around between 13 right up to 15. However, whilst the cows will almost immediately after that be mated with and conceive, the males hardly ever have a chance to mate until they are much, much older and bigger and stronger, unless they're sneaky about it, unless they manage to sneak their way in to a herd and get hold of an estrus cow without another bull knowing. But for the most part, elephant bulls very good at keeping the younger males away. There's still some upset elephants in there, and we're going to leave the ellies. James said something. I'm not sure what James said. Sorry guys, let me just listen to this. Okay, I don't know what James is trying to say there. He said something, but I didn't catch it. James, did you get those tracks there? Okay, copy that. Thank you. Alright, so just trying to work out exactly what's happening here so that James and I can plan our time sensibly. James, I think, is going to hang around in this area. We're going to move on. Herbert's on foot. Oh boy, I'm sorry. Don't be upset. I just want to come past. Is that okay? Just want to come through. Big ellie bull hiding out in the bushes there. And while we move on, let James update you as to exactly what he has found.
The answer to that great mystery, everybody, is absolutely nothing. I found nothing. Did find the tracks where they went off for the lions towards where I am now. Herbert is on foot, so he's having a look around there, and we'll just see if we don't have some luck there. So we're around about Aratuza, so we'll stick our noses into Aratuza. Hang on a sec. No, nothing. Okay, so we're into Aratuza now, and we're just going to go up towards the north, sort of parallel with Djuma, and we'll see if we don't pick up any further tracks of the cats. Otherwise, maybe something else. I did see those elephants that you were looking at. We came up behind you. We snuck up behind you. You didn't see us. And it looked like just the light was so very perfect. And so I hope you enjoyed the elephants with Jamie. And of course, Chelsea. Chelsea. Angie in Wisconsin, you say you don't really want to change the subject, but could we find some wild dogs? Angie, yes, with pleasure, of course we can. No, I don't know if we can. We can certainly try. I'd love to see some wild dogs, especially as by this time of the morning the lions are most likely going to go to sleep. But it would be lovely to find them. I don't know where. I don't think certainly nobody that I've heard of this morning has found any wild dogs. And there's been no update on the radio from Aratuza at all. So we're just going to go up parallel here with the Djuma boundary and see. No one's checked Sydney's dam yet. I know Jamie was on her way there, and I think she's probably going to continue that way. And we'll see if she has any luck that side. It'll be a slightly Pyrrhic victory if the lions are at Sydney's dam, because we'd kind of planned to go there and then we got distracted along the way. They've probably been sat there the whole time. Just turn the radio up so I can hear it. There we go. All right, no more calling has happened, so we haven't heard anything further. I don't know, you know, so often it happens, we wake up in the morning, there are lions shouting so close by that the windows almost rattle. And then by the time we go live, they just kind of disappear. Plenty of elephant activity around. Now, for those of you who don't know, there's some wonderful news that Brent managed to hear from Tristan at Simbambili Jr., erstwhile member of the Nkuhuma Pride, has has found a friend. So he's made a little... Oh, hang on a sec. Go ahead. It's Herbert. Go again. Andikutwanga. Herbert's on foot, everyone. Negative. Whereabouts? So he's heard a lion. Okay, copy, thanks. He says they're right in the block where we were. Copy, I'm close by. I'll come back that area now. Okay, so, just to give you an idea, we're driving now parallel with the Triple M break, which is the eastern boundary or western boundary of Djuma. We're in Arathusa, and we've got about, say, 200 yards to the boundary, and then 200 yards to the next road. And in between there, he can hear the lions calling. So let's just move along there. Don't worry, he's in no danger. Remember, we can sort of track lions on foot. It's not a particularly dangerous thing to do. He's calling me again. Go ahead. Utkumel. Alright, he's found it. I'm just trying to think the best route from here. Yeah, I think it's going to be to continue along here. This is wonderful. Tex, go ahead. Alrighty. Brilliant to have a tracker who knows what he's doing on foot. Fantastic stuff. And so he's just found the one male. This is why a tracker is the most important thing. It's going to take a little bit of a... We're just going to quickly get around the corner. This road is quite long without many sort of options to turn towards the east. So we're probably about 5 minutes away. I'm going to ask you to go and sit with Jamie for just 2 minutes while I get into the sighting, and then we'll come back and have a look at the lions.
Unfortunately, the hyena that we just spotted has raced off, but fantastic news about that lion. Glad that we could send Herbert off in the right direction, and wonderful that he has found it for you. Don't worry, Chelsea, I'll take you to see a lion after the drive. We're going to move on, obviously, and I've just come across a hyena sprinting across the road. Unfortunately, he's, oh my goodness, we're about to reverse right off the road and quite possibly into a dip. Unfortunately, that hyena has scattered. Oh, and I can hear the Franklins a good 200 meters into Simbambili already, frantically alarm calling. And Lucy, on the subject of hyenas, I think you're feeling the absence of them as much as I am. You were wondering if we've had a chance to look for the hyena den. No, we haven't. I know that it's still somewhere around, or I strongly suspect it's still somewhere around the Aubrey's Road area. And in fact, to be completely honest with you, Lucy, I'm not 100% convinced that they've abandoned that den site anyway. I suspect that they might be around there. So I'm going to actually head back at some point today and just pay a quick visit to the hyena den and have a look. But I'm with you. I feel the absence, and we know that whenever we have an extended period spent away from those hyena cubs, they grow and change tremendously. And I'm going to go and look for different lions. That's my plan, different lions and maybe the hyena den again. Oh my word, are we're taking requests now. I'll keep an eye out for you, Di. I really do enjoy watching vervet monkeys, and we've got the perfect camera for it, because it'll get us right up close and personal with them. You get to see all of those little intricate details on their fur and on their fingers. I will be searching for vervet monkeys, I will be searching for baboons. It's been such a pleasure to go to bed at night to the calls of baboons barking away outside our windows. I hadn't realized how much I'd missed that sound until it came back. For some reason I'm having a terrible earpiece day. My earpiece just doesn't, no matter where I put it and no matter what I do, it does not want to stay in my ear. There's something crossing. Oh, I see tracks. There we all spotted VM in the middle of an elephant track. But these are not 100% fresh. So these are not from last night. I think this might have been from the night before. And there you go, a perfect lion track in this beautiful golden morning light. I'm going to hop out just to point it out because I know it's difficult to see if you have never seen a lion track before. Here we go. And it's nicely on top of an elephant track as well. So we've got the, oh goodness, the dual beauty of that. So this is a big male that has walked through. He's calling, James's lion's calling. Well, I'm sure James is on his way there as we speak. All right, just got distracted there listening. Now there's the lion track, the back track falling on top of the front track. And every time I put my hand there, you get the shadow. It is a male, just judging by the size of it, it's almost the size of my hand. And he is going in this direction. So these are his toes, and this is the equivalent of his heel. He's going through. Now the reason that I know that it's not terribly fresh, but it is on top of another track, it's on top of this elephant track here, but it's lost its clarity, and you can see where the dew has settled around the edges. Now if I were to, in this soil, I'm going to have a look at how fresh a fresh track looks. I'm going to step next to the lion track, so screenshots while you want without a footprint next to it. And now I'm going to step here, and you can see how crisp and clear the outlines of my new track is compared to that of the lion. The lion's become a bit faded. And yes, they certainly they age quicker on a main road like this, but only once the very angry elephants, only once the dew is sort of evaporated and the dust can start to blow over them. So when cars come rushing past, it sprays dust across. There we go. That could even be Junior's tracks. I think James has been filling you in on his antics around this fence line, which is just to the north and to the west of us. So the Simbambili fence line that runs across from the gate. That is where he is currently occupied with his new partner in crime.
You got a friend?
He's got a friend, yes. Junior has a friend. He's finally found a friend. And apparently, it's not Oliver, no. That was my first thought as well. So VM and I nicknamed the young Shimungwe male Oliver on the basis that he was kind of a little bit like Oliver Twist. So the Shimungwes, one of my favorite prides, just because I'm always sort of rooting for the underdog. The Shimungwe lion pride I've only seen a couple of times, and it consists at this point of 2 sub-adult females and 1 sub-adult male, basically just babies. The entire pride was killed off either by other lions or by attack by hyena, leaving these 3 poor little things. And Oliver in particular got bullied by hyenas a couple of times, quite badly injured. He looked really thin when we last saw him. And VM and myself decided that it would be truly wonderful if he decided to form a coalition with Junior. But unfortunately, he's a little bit too young. It's not him. We actually don't know who that lion is. And from what I understand, they actually had a bit of a box, had a bit of a fight when they first encountered each other. And I think Junior stole this male's kill. And then at that point, they became firm friends, as lions do. And thus, I think a coalition has been formed. And speaking of our lions, fantastic news. James has joined up with Herbert and found that lion for you.
And that's Jamie giving credit where credit is simply not due. This was found entirely by the efforts on foot. Well, Jamie found their tracks originally, and then Herbert found this lion on foot and called us in, and here we are. We're actually not far from where we kind of last left the tracks, and he'd wandered through this block here, and now he's come to rest underneath this log over here. I don't know how long we're going to spend with him, because he is deeply, deeply relaxed. So deeply relaxed that he hasn't even bothered to look up when you came to see him, which I think is very nasty of him. Now, who is he is the question. I think this is one of the Birminghams, although he doesn't look very scarred on his face. Brian, any idea?
No.
His face looks very unscarred. It couldn't possibly be our old pal, could it? We were talking about Junior earlier on, but I don't know if that's him or not. I haven't seen him for so long. Now, I know many of you would be very excited to see Junior again, but just remember, as Brent has probably pointed out, that should Junior and his coalition, his new coalition partner, come into this area again, those new cubs will be in severe danger. So we actually don't want Junior around here, I'm afraid. We want him to press on and go and find himself another spot. But I don't know, I just think that this chap's face looks too unscarred for a Birmingham, but maybe it is a Birmingham. He's got a scar, one scar across the bridge of his nose. He certainly looks lazy enough for Junior. I remember my experiences of Junior with it. He basically did this all the time. There, he's opened his eyes at the insult. No, he is quite scarred. I'm sure this is a Birmingham, yeah. The mane is too full. Yep. Do you know what he's lifted his head for? He heard, and he can still hear, some hyenas calling. Now, I did have a message yesterday about trying to find the hyena den, and I said I would try and do that this morning. We will pop up there after we've had a look here, and we're going to spend a bit of time, I think, over the course of the next few days, trying to establish whether or not the hyena den has moved. And of course, 5 seemingly unidentified hyenas arrived at the Djuma Dam Cam yesterday. Don't know who they are, and just interesting that they should have pitched up when we haven't been able to find our little clan. You can also hear some monkeys' alarm calling to the far south. At least he's managed to open his eyes for us. That's a relief, isn't it, Brian?
It is.
He was being rather...
Just rude.
Just rude, exactly. Sunday rude. Exhausted from the week's efforts. He just made a little grunt there. And Herbert also heard another one calling. Okay, listen, there we go. He's going to call. Sorry, I'm just listening, everybody. Thought I heard another sound. There are elephants around. It was an elephant, Herbert says. Sorry, we had a question about whether or not the tail of the lion is barbed. Sorry, go again with that, Kirsty. The game drive radio is going ballistic in my ear. Right, Dominique, you're in Canada and you want to know if a lion's tail is barbed. No, a lion's tail is not barbed. Its penis is barbed, interestingly, but its tail, as far as I'm aware, is not. I have touched a lion's tail and I have not found any barbs on it. The lion, of course, was no longer, but there are no barbs as far as I'm aware. So I don't know where it could come from, the fact that the penis is barbed. And, I mean, we could go into discussions when we see them mating about why that is the case. But the tail is pretty much the same as any other tail on a cat that you'll find. So Hubert was just saying he did hear another lion calling, possibly to the east, well, definitely to the east of where we are, and I'm sure it's the same one that Jamie heard when she was following this fellow. So I don't know where that one is, but it sounds like still on Juma, which is nice. And the elephants, it took us a little while to get here, everyone, because we came across a large herd of elephants in the middle of the road. And one doesn't want to irritate them too much. We did have to kind of squeeze in amongst them. And the youngsters got very cross with us while the older ones just continued with their breakfast. It was quite amusing. He doesn't much resemble the king of the beasts when he's lying like that. But he has found himself the perfect spot to snooze. It's entirely possible that something could wander past by mistake. And he'll just kind of stand up and grab it and then eat it quietly in the shade here. It's going to get quite nice and warm, probably reach 27 degrees Celsius or so, about 80 degrees Fahrenheit. So just try and hear what he can hear. Hello, Claudio. You're in Johannesburg, up early on a Sunday morning. Very good to hear from you. You want to know what the best technique for finding a lion is. Claudio, tracking is the best technique to find lions, and tracking means following the tracks, the footprints basically, paw print by paw print. That's the best way to find a lion. Obviously, if they're calling, if they're making a noise, well then that's great, that's an advantage, that'll help you. And obviously if you know their general movements, so for example when you come into an area, you can sometimes tell which way the animals are going to move, which way the lions will move, what their predominant movements are. He's calling, this guy's going, ooh. So Claudia, those are the kind of ways that you do it. But Hubert did it by following the tracks. And that's the most difficult way and the most effective way. As with so many things in life, of course, often the most difficult and the most difficult to learn, the most difficult technique to learn is the most effective. And learning to track lions across the block, they're very easy when they're on the road, of course, because they're heavy and they leave a big footprint. But off the road, no mean feat. It's really quite difficult. This guy keeps hearing something or other around the place, and he thinks about getting up, and then he becomes overwhelmed with leonine exhaustion, and he goes back to sleep, as is his wont. We'll give him a few more minutes and see what he does. He might get up and move and go and try and find his friendies. He might just sit there and do nothing. Certainly sitting and doing nothing seems to be his general attitude at the moment. Nothing else happened on the reserve so far, just those elephants. No leopard tracks. I know that Aubrey and Taxon are around Treehouse Dam, hoping to try and find some leopards. Now, Carol, you are in Nebraska and you want to know how close Hubert got to the lion. Hubert, how close did you get to the lion?
20 meters.
About 20 meters. And he sat up, did he? And he looked at you?
Yeah, he came.
He came. Did he rev you? No. So he gave Hubert a bit of a rev. And then what happened?
He just stopped.
And then he stopped. Okay.
Start reversing.
So what a lion will do, everybody, and this is why you don't want to be tracking them unless you're experienced, is that he stood up And he took a few steps towards Herbert, and then Herbert stopped, and the lion stopped, and Herbert backed off. And then he called us in. And that was how the tracking expedition went. Often the lions would just get up and move away, which is interesting. And they all want to know, all the viewers want to know, is it Herbert or Herbert? Herbert. Okay, it's Herbert. I got it wrong. No, he's now fast asleep. He keeps hearing something. Let's just listen carefully. James Richard, do you reckon that this is Blondie, the Birmingham? Could well be. Their manes amazingly they've really filled out in the last little while. They're definitely coming into their own now, these lions. I'm very interested as to why he keeps looking that way, and I'm sure he's hearing another lion calling. And his ears, of course, are that much more powerful than ours. And he'll get a much greater idea. Or they'll cover a much wider area. And so when people say it, and we were asked this yesterday, how far does a lion's call travel? And it's a difficult one to answer because it really depends on how well you hear. So if you hear particularly well, like lions do, probably about 5 miles or 8 kilometers. And if you don't hear very well, like human beings, well, up to probably maybe 5 kilometers, 3.5 miles. So they do travel a long way. So sometimes these animals will lift their heads and they'll listen because they've heard something in the distance that our ears are just incapable of picking up. They'll also hear different frequencies, a much wider range of frequencies. I don't think we're going to give this guy another 2 or 3 minutes, and then if he doesn't start to move, we too will go and see if we can find something else. Nigel, you're in the UK and you say, would other animals understand whose tracks these are? You mean the lion tracks, Nigel? Nigel, no, I don't think so at all. I think I don't think that they identify lions by their tracks. I think they would certainly identify the smell of a lion, though. And lions will obviously leave their scent by rubbing their heads against guarri bushes like the one he's lying underneath. And there's no way that other animals don't. Sorry, I just stopped because he lifted his head and I wanted to see if we could hear what he was hearing. So Nigel, much like a dog will follow a track of a human being or an animal by smelling where it's gone, so I think all the animals out here will follow a lion far more by smelling and hearing him than they would by looking at his tracks on the ground. As far as I'm aware, I suspect it's only human beings, maybe some of the other primates, who will recognize an animal by its tracks. Sweet, sweet lion repose. Sandy, you're interested in why these lions will fight. Why have they got so many scars on them? Are they fighting with each other? What's the story? Would they kill each other? Sandy, the answer is that they do fight with each other. They'll fight with each other over food, but also during the course of the takeover of this area and the maintenance of the territory, they will fight with other lions. And so that is, that does happen. They will fight with other lions, and that's why they get scarred. Would they kill each other? Yes, they might kill each other. Or no, at least it's highly unlikely that they would kill each other. It's not impossible, but it's highly unlikely. Go ahead. So remember that lions, there's no honor amongst thieves, and so lions will happily have a go at each other. They'll happily have a go at each other at a kill, and that goes for a pride, and it also goes for a coalition. I'm just going to call Andrew. Andrew, go ahead. Andrew, come in. No, I can't get hold of him. I think he's trying to get into this lion sighting. Anyway, we'll just try and help him in before we leave. Andrew, Cheetah Plains. Andrew, do you copy Andrew? No, nothing. Sure there's no one else here? Nobody else seems to be coming? Sorry, a question about their eyes there, from whom I don't know, but the question is, do their eyes move? And that's from Insomniac. Their eyes do move. I know what you mean. It does look a little bit like when they want to look in a certain direction, they move their heads. Their eyes absolutely move, yes, completely. They also shut readily whenever there's a little bit of warmth on them. The one animal apparently that doesn't move its eyes particularly well is a bush baby. And a bush baby's got very large eyes, and they're unable to move them within the socket. Sorry, here we go again on the radio. Go ahead, Andrew. Go ahead. All right, let's go across to Jamie while I get these guys into the sighting, and I'll catch up with you with this line a bit later.
Oh wow. James manages the sighting of that male lion. I've been tracking the rest of them, and let me tell you a story. These lions have been everywhere around the northern boundary. I have tracks going east, west, north, south. I found very, very, very fresh tracks of the females, at least one female. I couldn't see if it was more than one, going north into Buffelshoek around Aubrey's Road, so outside of our Traverse area. But I've also found female tracks around, I'm now at Bubu Road, and I've found them, the freshest set of tracks I've seen after the lion that we found earlier is going this way. So we're going to go check around Buffelshoek Dam, see if we can't find them there. And essentially try and wind up whatever happened last night and sort of work out a bit in the way of a story. Lions pacing backwards and forwards. I heard tell that they went racing into Manuleti yesterday, but they have since returned. Oh, there's too many lion tracks. Lion tracks absolutely everywhere. Now, Karen, you were wondering on the subject of lions, whether there is a difference between the lions in this area and the lions in the Serengeti. And there are differences in lions throughout Africa. So all of the African lions have slight differences. Hello, boy. A big grey wall. I'll reposition in a moment, but you can just have a look at what I'm looking at. He is huge. He looks pretty big. And he's gone very still, which means that he is watching us. No, boy, stop it. We give you plenty of space. Just making sure we have an escape route. I saw that coming. What was that for? What if I'd like to come past? Okay, guys. We clearly have a naughty bull. He's not going to do anything to us. He's not, I don't think, in any way dangerous, but we are going to give him plenty of space because important to remember that they are, first of all, they are much bigger, much larger than us, and second of all, we are in their home. So automatically, if an animal is upset with you for some reason, that is your fault. I'm just trying to gauge his reactions. I think that now we've given him plenty of space. I think he's just being bolshy and rude, but he is a very large bull, and I have been smelling must around here. So whilst it doesn't look like he's in the height of must, I'm just going to give him a little bit extra room. You see, he's not ideal. And I don't really feel like being chased down the road. But I would also really like to come past. Can't we reach some kind of agreement, mister? No, we can't. There's no way around that without getting charged and upsetting the elephant, so we'll go around. We'll give him some space, we'll wait for him to move off, and then we'll come through this way again. It's a pity because that's where I want to go track the lions.
Take the fire break more anyway.
Should we take the fire break, Liam? Let's take the fire break. So what he would have done if I hadn't reversed, and I reversed when I did. So there's a reason that I handled that the way that I did. I saw him from a long way off coming, and I could see his body language go funny from the moment we stopped to look at him. Now the reason you've often heard us talking about the fact that we don't race away from a charging elephant because we don't want to teach it that this is now the best game ever. Let's go chase cars and they'll drive away from us immediately. However, he was far enough away that I wanted to avoid the next situation. Here's what would have happened if I'd been closer. He would have stormed forward in that way that they do, the sort of the head toss. And he would have come and he would have stopped right at the front of the vehicle. And at that point we would have had a standoff with me talking to him, preferably not aggressively in any way, but we would have had a standoff. We would have been stuck there for a long time. Because as soon as we would want to move off, he would immediately come forward again and keep pressurizing and keep pressurizing. And so I just feel as though it's something we might just want to avoid. There's no reason, because I was far enough away, there's no reason for us to put poor Chelsea through that on her first game drive in the bush. Now Cindy, I said that I caught the scented must, and I'm having to sort of struggle with my blocked nose this morning, the dust from yesterday. We did spend an inordinate amount of time driving behind vehicles, so my sense of smell is not at its finest. Just popping the car into low range. You want to know what must smells like, and the answer is, I think Liam described it best. He described it as sour oros. Sour oros. Now oros is an orange concentrate drink that we all grew up as South African kids. We all grew up drinking it. It is as artificial as it comes, absolutely thoroughly revolting in a way, but I still love it. For us it'll forever be the taste of sport matches. But if you leave oros for a while, or an orange concentrate, you leave it to go a bit sour, that is apparently what must smells like, and Liam's absolutely right. It has a musky scent to it. So, and it's a musky, very, trying to describe it when not using the description of oros is really difficult, because it's This is going to sound bizarre, but it smells really hormonal. It smells like the elephant is hormonal. And I can't quite describe exactly what I mean by that, but you'll just have to take my word for it. And then, of course, you've got the combination of the elephant smell with it, which is a very grassy, rich, big animal smell. It's a beautiful smell. And you get that combination. Now, I just have a funny feeling as we travel along this fire break that our elephant's going to come and find us anyway. He's just in one of those moods. Now, I never finished off my question on the difference between the Serengeti lions and our lions here, but James is still with his lion, and I'm sure he can show you in the flesh exactly what those differences look like.
This lion, everybody, has opened his eyes once and has now closed them again. And very exciting, really, isn't it? So I think a few more minutes and then we're going to press on and see what else we can find. There were some elephants around the corner here. Maybe we'll head down towards Treehouse Dam and see if we can't pick up on a leopard track or two. But there are one or two people coming into this sighting, so I'll just have to wait for a few of them to get here so that we don't leave him unattended. Nice to have so many elephants around, I must say. Karen, nice question from you. Of course, you know, so many of the wildlife documentaries that we've seen and come to love have been shot in East Africa because it's more open and the vegetation isn't nearly as thick as it is here. And so it's just easier to film in and easier to find animals quite often. And you want to know if there's a difference between the lions there and the lions that we get here. And the answer is no. There's no difference at all. They are the same species. They are not a different subspecies. I suppose there, you know, one or two taxonomists might argue that the East African subspecies, because it is, or the East African lion, because it is not contiguous with the Southern African lion, in that there are gaps between the populations of East Africa and Southern Africa, you know, due to agriculture and human settlement. Because of that, they might be considered different subspecies, but I think most people accept that they are the same subspecies of the same species. So, yeah, same animal, and they would do just as well. You know, if you were to drop a Serengeti lion into this area, it would survive just as easily as it does in the Serengeti. Chitwa, a question from you that's a little difficult to answer. Oh, sorry, okay. So you want to know what the difference between an Asiatic lion and an African lion is. Chitwa, the difference is they are the same species. I think, again, there's probably quite a lot of controversy over whether there are different subspecies or not, and whether they are all the same, or perhaps the Asiatic lion forms a different subspecies. It is the same species, though, so it is Panthera pardus, and there is also some debate as to whether that Asiatic lion that occurs in the Gir forest of India is in fact native to the area rather than introduced. And I forgot exactly what that argument is, but certainly lions did occur in India and throughout Asia. And so, you know, I mean, they would have occurred there even if that current population has been introduced. And they are the same species. I think you'll find, though, as time goes on, it will diversify slightly from the African lion, but they're absolutely the same animal, pretty much. You know, the best way to describe it is with the leopard, which has got 9 subspecies that occur from here all the way to the far east of Asia. And they all look actually quite different. You know, if you take for example, the Amur leopard, of which there are only 50 left in the far east of Russia, well, the Amur leopard is a much larger creature than, or similar size to ours, but much fluffier. And although it looks almost like it must be a different species, it isn't. They're all the same, they're just a different subspecies. So genetically very closely related to our leopards, and lions even closer related than the different lions of India and Africa. I'm just quickly checking in my book here to see if anybody does actually consider them different subspecies. But I don't think that is the case, no. It's interesting, you know, I've been reading, well, one tries to read all the time, otherwise you get, you know, you forget things and you start to give nonsense information. You've got to try and keep up with the latest research. Some people, you know, out here we generally we generally describe lion prides as being the females and their related offspring, with the males excluded. But in some areas, you know, often males only dominate one pride, and then I suppose you might consider the males part of the pride, but in general they are not. They form a coalition, and that is extra to the pride. It is not part of the pride. All right, everybody, I think I've had enough of watching this sleeping lion. What do you think, Brian?
Yeah.
That's putting me to sleep on this soporific Sunday morning. So I think we're going to press on from here, and we'll leave a branch on the road so that anybody else can find him, and then we'll see what else we can find. He's not even reacting when I try and start the engine. Kat, you're in Tampa, obviously, and you want to know about whether their scent marking smells like buttered popcorn in the same way that leopards does. I don't think I have noticed that, no. I think it probably smells rather more like a sort of strong urine, to be honest. It doesn't smell like buttered popcorn. I've always liked that description. I mean, I know what people mean. It just doesn't smell like buttered popcorn to me. I know exactly what you mean, but to me it doesn't smell like buttered popcorn. They're actually so very close to the boundary here. They're only about, Brian, if you just want to show us the boundary there, that's the Mala Mala boundary you can see there. Not Mala Mala, it's the Triple M boundary, shows the boundary onto Arethusa. And that's only about 100 meters from where we are now, which is about 300 feet. All right, we're going to ease our way out here. We'll leave a branch on the road, and I don't think this lion's going anywhere. And so I'm pretty sure that whoever wants to come see him will find him with ease. And Joyce, a nice one from you about lions keeping their claws sharp, and you want to know, do they sorry, do they have to keep their claws sharp like a house cat? I'll be okay. Joyce, yes, they do have to keep their claws sharp, and you often see them scratching on trees, where a house cat might be stretching or scratching on your furniture, for example. Lions will scratch on the bark of trees, and they keep their claws sharp in that way. Let me just break a few branches, and then we'll leave them on the road, and they can just follow our tracks in. There were some elephants just up ahead here. I'm pretty sure they've moved, but let's go and have a look anyway. Let me just announce on the radio. Stations, I'm leaving this one male lion static in the same place, 100 meters north of Impala Road, Ballinites Junction, about 50 meters to the west of the road. There's a branch on the road, just follow the tracks in. He's under a quarry bush there. Now, there were some elephants just up ahead here, and we caused their ire by sort of sneaking in between them because we didn't want to miss out on the lion before he went completely to sleep. There they are, they're still there. Marvelous. Whoa, whoa. We'll just have to say our apologies because some of the little ones got very cross with us indeed. It was very funny to watch. And as one of the little ones started shouting, Brian looked behind us and one of the older ones poked him in the bum with his tusk, as if to say, shut up, it's Sunday morning, and we've seen these people before, they're no damage to us at all. I would like to be poked in the bum with an elephant's tusk. Would you, Brian?
Not particularly.
No. I feel it would be uncomfortable.
Yeah.
There we go. Look, there's one's trying to stand. Oh no, you know what? This is horrible. Just watch the little one there. Go ahead. Look, that foot is has got trouble. Go north on Impala Road, you'll find a branch in the road. That little elephant has got a major problem in the wrist joint there. You need to go down Balanites Road, just keep going west, and then you'll hit go through the clearings, you'll hit Impala Road, and turn north on that road. That's really quite distressing to see, because I don't see how. Maybe it's just a little sprain or something, but that foot looks to be very, very sore indeed. I can't see any obvious injury on it. Swollen at the foot, maybe. Yeah, there is. It's swollen at the foot. Maybe there's a big thorn in there, which will eventually just be sort of extruded. The elephant's foot will push it out. Now, the difficulty here, of course, for the elephant herd, they will look after this little one, but only for a certain period. Once the health of that little elephant starts to affect the rest of the herd, let's say there's a broken bone there and it won't fix itself, they will eventually have to leave it, and it will then unfortunately perish at the teeth and claws of a predator. But at the moment, we're not anywhere near that, but the herd will do their level best to try and look after this little one. And its body will almost certainly heal itself. This looks like a swelling in the foot to me, which indicates that it's stood on something and, like a big thorn, or maybe a very sharp branch, like a zebra wood branch. And while very sore, it will quite possibly just be kind of pushed out eventually. And then the little elephant will be fine. So probably a bit of infection in the foot. Well, certainly he hasn't lost any condition, looks to be in very good condition, so probably okay. Just not very nice to see. It is interesting. You can see the winter colours here. They tend to be a little bit bland in the absence of some proper sunlight. But when the sun shines, oh, I love this golden colour. Caroline, you want to know if elephants will ever rescue an animal to save its life? Their own, absolutely. They will pull youngsters out of the mud. They'll help them if they get stuck in sort of thick bushes if they're very young. They're very, very careful of looking after the little ones when they're in any kind of distress. In terms of other animals, I've not seen it happening, no. I imagine it's maybe possible, because they are very sensitive. They don't like distress. But I've not seen any records of elephants actually pulling an animal out of the mud, for example. other than, you know, another elephant. Now, they'll take risks for their own, but they're not, I mean, they're not necessarily going to take risks for anyone else. They will indirectly save other animals by making sure that, or by chasing predators. So if they came across a pride of lions here, they'd chase the lions away, and obviously that would indirectly make it a safer area for other grazers to be in. Shame, it does have a nasty limp. You just sneak a little bit forward, we'll get another look. There we go. Yeah, I wonder who the mother is. I suspect it's that big cow there. Jen, you say being so close to the lion, could he fall prey to the lion, that little elephant? Jen, no. Not with the herd around. Already that elephant is much heavier than, well, no, that's not true actually. The lion is probably around 180 to 200 kilograms. That elephant, being probably almost, or probably 18 months old, is probably about 150 kilograms. So slightly smaller, call it the same weight if you like, but the herd would go absolutely ballistic if that lion came through here. They would destroy it. If that lion decided to have a go at the calf, it would be an extremely, extremely unwise decision. The elephant's probably about 2 years old. I can just hear them talking quietly to each other. Shame. Go ahead. Okay, we're just going to put a russet bush willow on the road. Just come north up Impala Plains. I'm still on Impala Plains Road. If you get to me, then you've gone too far. But you will see the branch in the road there, and the tracks going off. Come north. Sorry, these guys are struggling to find the line. It's Abel who doesn't drive around here a lot. So we might just have to go back and help him. All right, let's go and have a look. I'm just going to help Abel get into the lion sighting. We'll go across to Jamie and find out what she's doing, and then we'll probably head down south and see if we can't pick up some leopard tracks.
I have been listening to the conversation on the Game Drive channel, so I know how complex this arrangement has turned out to be. Very sad to hear about that poor little elephant wandering about with a sore foot. It's never pleasant to see an animal suffer, and particularly a baby elephant. We've spent so many days with the lovely babies recently, and it is very sad. Let me tell you the story of my elephant. So I couldn't get past him on the main road, obviously, so I tried the fire brake. And while I tried the fire brake, he ran across and stood in front of me, or started coming towards me on the fire brake. So I tried going back the other way. And I looked back up the road, and he was back on the cut line. At which point, we gave up and went all the way around him. It was just the easiest way of dealing with it, because he was not going to let us come past. He just wasn't having any of it. And whilst I could have put my foot flat and zoomed past him, not really ideal behavior in terms of spending time in the bush. Oh, there we go, Abel's managing to get to the sighting. I have not given up on the idea of more lions being on this property. There are still some somewhere. I just have a feeling. We heard lots and lots of calling from the northern boundary, and that's been borne out by the tracks up and down and up and down and up and down. We're going to go and investigate Buffels Hook Dam and see if that female isn't perhaps somewhere there. There's the white-crested helmet shrike, and there's also a southern black tit that was calling. I was confused as to why I was seeing one bird but hearing a different call. Here we go, some grooming white-crowned shrike, helmet shrikes. That's a baby. That's a juvenile white-crowned helmet shrike. And if we watch, we might even get to see it begging. And just on the subject of birds, for those of you who were watching the show a little while ago, we were talking about a cuckoo, and we saw a levalence cuckoo, or a valence cuckoo. And I was a bit confused because they're migratory birds, so it shouldn't really have been hanging out. And I said it was being mobbed by starlings. And the reason I mention this is because the helmet shrikes also play host to cuckoos. Now, I went back to camp and I asked James about it because I was confused to see a valence cuckoo. And apparently, very, very common to see them in their first year. So what I thought was a cuckoo being mobbed by starlings was actually a cuckoo that had been raised by starlings and was with his family. That's something that you could see with the helmet shrikes as well. It's very common to see these poor little birds feeding a baby that is double their size. In this case, though, the bird on the left is their legitimate offspring, and the whole group will play a role in feeding it. Okay, let's go see what Buffels Hook Dam has to offer. Just hold on one moment, sorry. I am earpieced up. There we go. Managed to wrap my earpiece around the lever that controls the back of the chair and the door handle at the same time. Lion tracks everywhere. Lion tracks going this way, lion tracks going that way. And there's got to be, somewhere here, there's another lion, at least one other male, because that calling was still coming from this area. Let's go see if maybe there's one sunning himself on Buffels Hook Dam wall. And I did go and check up on the hyena den, and they have definitely moved. Went and visited both den sites on Aubrey's Road. There was not a hyena track there. Rachel, you were wondering what kind of clues you were going to be looking for in order to relocate the lions once again. And Rachel, hyenas. Sorry, signal dip there. So Rachel, what you're looking for is tracks up and down a road. That's a really good giveaway that there is a hyena den somewhere in the vicinity, because the hyenas use the road as much as the other predators do as an access point. Then you start to look for middens, or what's actually known as latrines, places where they've regularly defecated, but not right at the den site itself, but around it. Then once you get to a possible location, if you follow the hyena tracks, the next thing that you're looking for is chewed up branches around a termite mound, like where the hyenas have been chewing and teething. every now and again you might even get the smell of it. The smell is a really nice clue. It plays a big role in tracking down a hyena den. Tracking down lions, on the other hand, is proving to be more complicated than I expected this morning. And there is nobody here at Buffelshoek Dam. Just a grey heron. Sorry, not nobody. Sorry, heron. I'll dismiss you like that. There is a grey heron and not much else. A bird that many of you actually might be familiar with, for those of you who are in Europe, it is exactly the same. Look at those huge feet of his. Long, long toes to help spread out his body weight so that he doesn't sink into the mud. And this is absolutely beautiful. Look at his reflection in the dam. And a pair of drinking Cape turtle doves as well. On the subject of water-based birds, Joey, in Australia, you were wondering if we get whistling ducks on Djuma, in the Sabi Sands, and if so, what species? The answer is yes, we do. And in terms of species, we get what is known as a white-faced whistling duck. So whistling ducks named for their incredible call, and they sort of have it's a very wheezy whistle. It's a I can usually do it so well, but today not so much. That's the sort of noise they make, but about 10 times louder and actually sounding like a bird and not just like I'm breathing out stupidly through my mouth. But white-faced whistling ducks are the ones that we get around here. I haven't seen any. I've heard them once, but I've yet to see them, and I think it's just because of the product of the drought. They're spending a lot more time around the rivers further to the south and further into the Kruger National Park. And apparently the last, or at least some whistling ducks were seen at the Arethusa Dam with Scott around the beginning of the year. They are around. I just personally haven't seen them, and I've heard them a few times. We also, my favourite duck is the comb-billed or the knob-billed duck, with its very strange protrusion that sticks up above its beak. A really interesting little bird. And here's another favourite. Just because Buffelshoek Dam always provides, there's a little tiny, tiny three-banded plover plucking its way. Here it is, like a little crowned lapwing, but miniature. Dashing along. And unlike the heron that we were watching earlier, this little, this little speedster does not have the back toe that sits on the, sort of to balance it out at the back. So all of these, oh there's two, all of these ground-based birds running around like this, lapwings included, will have the back track missing from the toe. Their back toes are very, very small. You can see why they're called three-banded with their banded chests. This is most likely a mated pair. They're very cute. Okay, let's move on, see if we can't track down these lions. I might need to do some shedding of layers very soon. And Joey in Australia, on the subject of birds, you're wondering what about yellow-billed storks? And yes, absolutely, we get yellow-billed storks. I've seen one. When did I see a yellow-billed stork? It must have been, it was around Arethusa. There was the black stork at Buffalo Dam, and then I saw a yellow-billed stork. Sure, Joey, all of our memories kind of blur into one, but I think it was around Arethusa as well that we saw a yellow-billed stork. So we do get them. The black storks, of course, have migrated. The Abdom stork also. I've never seen an Abdom stork here yet, but they can be around. The one unusual bird that I saw in Buffelshoek Dam was a spoonbill, and that was unfortunately when the stream was down a couple of days ago. There was a spoonbill at Buffelshoek Dam. Stay tuned and start adding to your bird lists. While we go and investigate the eastern boundary, let's find out what James's plans are.
Our plans, everybody. Just listening. The lion just got up and walked into Arethusa. Now I'm laughing because I'm not being very kind, but poor old Andrew has just travelled all the way from Cheetah Plains to have a look at this lion. As he's got there, he's stood up, walked 100 metres across the boundary. That's astounding. Anyway, we'll keep an eye and listen out for what he's going to do. He's now moving. That's interesting. We'll keep an ear out. We might go back towards that area and just see what he does. First thing we're going to do is go down towards Treehouse Dam and see if we can find anything over there. Brent had that amazing sighting yesterday of the elephants playing soccer. Oh, so I'll quickly pick something up here. I'm still here, Brian. Don't worry. Here, everybody, is a large piece of wood, and this piece of wood comes from the rootstock of a plant. And I think it's probably a combretum bush or a bush willow bush. But what's interesting is that this kind of mangled rootstock only grows like this because the plant gets constantly broken off by elephants, and so the rootstock gets quite woody and it breaks up, and then it forms this kind of gnarled and very interesting shapes. And you can see here where the trunks and branches have come out of the rootstock at various times. They've been snapped off and broken, and I think that you'll find that originally this was probably the original trunk of the plant. It was probably pushed over and broken, and it would have grown into the ground as part of the roots, and as it did that, new shoots would have come out of it and grown towards the light. Isn't that nice? And Brian, just quickly, I mean, if you were to polish that to a really fine sheen, you'd have some very beautiful wood indeed. Not sure what you'd do with a piece of wood like this other than use it as a paperweight. But it would be very pretty paperweight. On we go. Brian, was that the most entertaining thing you've ever seen in your life?
It was incredible.
Good, I'm glad. I'm just assuming that the fact that your sighs and wheezes of wonder are not audible because of your buff.
That's exactly.
Right, onward to the dam. The great mine that is the Treehouse Dam. James Richard, a nice one from you. You want to know if the Kruger or surrounding areas has ever sort of struggled with the poaching or illegal collection of plants. Yes, to a certain extent. You're not allowed to just wander onto the area and take plants. I think that you'd find that local doctors and, herbalists and traditional healers, the collection of plants by them would have an almost negligible effect on the general flora of the area. But if you go into a Johannesburg market, and if you go with the right people, you can find markets where you'll find all sorts of wildlife products, including piles of different plants that are found in the wild. I don't believe that it has an appreciable effect on the vegetation. It might in some areas. Certainly in the Kruger, it's not a major problem. And were one or two people to come under the fence and collect a handful, or even a truck, not a truck maybe, but a sort of a bucket full of different kinds of specialist plants used for traditional healing, yeah, I don't think it would have an appreciable difference. I'm always interested by this discussion because it's such an interesting one where, and like I've mentioned before, I read a comment on one of our feeds where the question was, why do they keep destroying the land? And it was referring to local people. And of course, it's a common misconception that local people have a negative effect on the environment more than, say, city-dwelling, urbanized Westerners. Every time one of us, I'm going to say Western because we live in a kind of sophisticated society where we use things like kettles and toasters. Every time you push your toaster down or switch the light on in the 4 or 5 rooms in your house, or the geyser heats up, or you heat some water in a kettle, or you switch on your coffee machine, you are probably using more energy than a family of 8 in a rural area in South Africa would use in a day. So it's always interesting to me how we, and I include myself in this completely, you know, we see like the chopping down of a tree and we think, oh, but that tree is so ancient and it's, you know, it survived for so long and now it's been killed, and it's, you know, it's so sad that it's being used for firewood, or, you know, when we are disconnected in the kind of urbanized setting. When we turn on our kettle, we don't realize that, you know, we're burning far more coal or whatever power source it happens to come from than that family that has chopped down the tree is using. And I think it's something that we should be very aware of, because we just can't see the environmental degradation that we are making. Now, the elephants are in great numbers around here, and Jamie, the elephant whisperer, has found some more.
And despite my whispering to him, he doesn't really want to show his face. And unlike our elephant bull from earlier, this gentleman is actually quite shy. But we really truly have been spoilt with elephant sightings this morning. There's so many of them about. It seems like at every turn you find either an elephant herd or, in this case, a solitary bull just hanging out, enjoying his own company. I'm not sure how many of you have ever... Stop swishing so much. I was going to say, how many of you have ever felt what an elephant hair feels like? If you've ever been fortunate enough to do so. It is incredibly coarse. It's thick, it's almost like wire. It's kind of, it really is, it's almost like wire. Ooh, and there's an uncomfortable branch shifting around. And with this stunning view of the bottom of his foot, you can actually see where those wrinkles in the tracks come from. I don't know if you have an American equivalent or something in your country, but we were just joking that he needs some Ingrams. Ingrams is a South African brand that you can use. It's a type of cream you can use for cracked elbows and knees and heels. And it's brilliant. It's perfect. It works for absolutely everything. He sort of looks like he needs it. Read a fascinating article on elephants' wrinkly skin and the properties thereof. And so in theory, apart from increasing its surface area, which in turn increases the area available for heat exchange, it also, when they go and they have a mud bath, they have a wallow in the water, they splash themselves, the water goes into the cracks of the skin and then doesn't evaporate as quickly, so they stay cool for longer. A really interesting thought. I can't believe that's never occurred to me before, but now that we've mentioned it, it makes imminent sense. I've been tracking a male lion for the last, I'd say, about 500 meters, and it looks as though he's going to go straight into Torchwood. Hello, boy. Let me come say hello. It's okay. All right, boy. Here we go. Why are you all so testy this morning? Grouch? Okay. Obviously we're going to let him go. He doesn't want to stick around. I don't know what's got them upset like this. The herd this morning was also, I think, a little bit on edge. And I think they're starting to feel the pinch of the lack of water. There's still water about, but they are starting to feel it in the form of having to move further and further afield for food. And there's an ellie trumpeting elsewhere as well, just a little bit ahead of us. So many elephants all over the show. I love that sound. Trumpeting off in the distance. And Natasha in Ontario, welcome to the Sunrise Safari. You were saying that a couple of days ago we saw elephants without... Sorry, I was listening to this elephant. Woof! Very cross. Oh, there we go. Here's the calming rumble from one of the adult females, restoring some order to whatever's happening over there. Sounds like a baby, but I don't know whether it's feeling pressurized by one of these bulls. There's so many of them about that it might be what's stressing them out slightly. Let's go and investigate, but we'll give them a nice wide berth. And Natasha, I got distracted, I'm sorry. You were wondering about how the elephants lose their tail, since we have seen them without tails. We've seen a few without tails. The truth is we don't really know, to be completely honest. I mean, the theory that's been put forward, and I think it's a very good theory, is that as soon as they get a little cut or something, that ticks start to infest that area, eventually resulting in the loss of that appendage. Personally, I think there are other potential explanations as well, maybe infection, maybe something similar. Can I come past? That is relaxed nicely. Hello, boy. There we go. That's better. You're a bit happier now. Now, Natasha, I've thought of a couple of different options. It's unlikely to be from a predator. It could have got hooked on a thorn. Or the difficulty is, I mean, elephant skin is so incredibly thick. Yo! Somebody's incredibly upset back there. Elephant skin is unbelievably thick and basically impervious to most things. It's hard to imagine exactly how that elephant might have lost its tail. I think the most likely explanation is a little bit of a nick or a cut that then got infected. That would be my guess. It's not like the tailless lioness where the explanation was very clearly that she had lost it due to hyenas. Both tailless lionesses, actually. Okay, should we go find out what this elephant is trumpeting at? Who knows, maybe the wild dogs have come dashing onto the property. You just never know. There's always that possibility. It happened the other day with James on Cheetah Plains, in the middle of a leopard sighting. So let's go and investigate. Bye-bye, boy. Go and investigate carefully, not to get ourselves into trouble. The sound. Whew. They're very noisy. Let's go find out. I don't necessarily want to go bumbling into the sighting though, because something has, this is not just a normal baby having a tantrum. This is a very cross, and I'd prefer it if you stayed out of my way kind of noise. So we'll go and investigate from a distance, I think. Luckily we've got the super zoom. We don't need to go barreling into the middle of an elephant herd. Please let it be wild dogs. Please let it be wild dogs. Sounds, and there's lion tracks coming through as well. No, there's something that's upset them terribly. Okay, the lion tracks go straight into Buffel's Hook across our boundary. I'm not stopping for them now. They're beautifully fresh. We missed him by just a few hours, I would say. But we haven't necessarily missed what, yeah, those tracks go straight on the boundary between Torchwood and, what's that other property? Buffel's Hook, sorry. Right, Ellies, what's happening? What has got you so upset? Got the lion tracks there. Something else. Ah, hyenas. Down the fire. Oh, there's lions everywhere. Why are there lions everywhere but where we are? Trying to decide what the best approach for these elephants is going to be. I think they might be around, they're between Buffel's Hook East and Hippo Pools. Let's go race around here. There's a distinct possibility that there is a lion. And there's lion tracks coming in from Torchwood, lion tracks going into Torchwood. And there's the possibility that that female has moved her cubs. Sorry, there's something terrible in my eye.
You need to put it out.
My eye. Vim's,
That's cruel.
I know Vim. Our cameramen are very, very talented at pulling things out of eyes. I'm not happy, but she's okay. What's all the fuss, guys? What's happening? What's going on? What's got you so upset? Let's just go round. Let's make a loop. Told you there are elephants everywhere. Elephants absolutely everywhere. Let's go around and make a loop and just check. Bye-bye, girl. We'll come back and find you. Big female. While we go and investigate, see what's happening, let's head back to James for an update.
We're just earthwork here at the moment, everybody. This is Twin Dams, which is now roughly the size of the Three Gorges Dam in China, which, while it does look a little unsightly now when it fills up with water, well, might attract a few animals, which would be nice. It's certainly a lot wider now, so we can drive across it without fear of sort of falling off. Anyway, I imagine it'll be finished in the next week or so. Let's try and make it off the side here. Right, we've come to the southern end of the reserve, and there, Brian, are the two battaliers that live not far from here. They live on Leadwood Road, and there they are, flying about the place. I love watching them fly. Their shallow wing beats and completely graceful flight, despite the fact that you can see them making very slight adjustments all the time to their balance. Just very slight all the time. I don't know if you've ever been in a single canoe, and I don't mean a kayak, sort of easily balanceable kayak. I mean like a K1 that you do a river race on. Extremely difficult to balance in to start with. And you've really got to get your core to move with an amazing degree of fine adjustments, and it's very much the same as when you watch a battalier flying. or 2 bateliers in the case of these ones, if you have a skilled cameraman like Brian Joubert. Just wonderful to watch. See how shallow the wing beats are? It's such a distinctive way of flying, everybody. No other bird looks like that when it flies. Brilliant stuff. Well done, Brian. Good job. So what I was meaning there, I don't know if I was clear enough, but if you get into a K1 canoe, it's very unstable, and you kind of got to sit like this, and you know you'll fall over into the water very often. In my case, more often than most. But eventually, your body sort of starts to adjust, and you're able to balance. And it looks to me exactly like when a batelier is flying. Jamie's got something interesting.
Dear, unfortunately, I was trying to let Kirsty know that we were having a toilet break, not asking for a quick link. I'm missing a cameraman, and indeed my other passenger as well, just sitting here enjoying a moment on the road. Well, hi. We'll just wait patiently for Wim to rejoin us.
Oh, did they come to us?
I'm going to send you back across to James.
Apparently Jamie didn't want a quick link, and we don't know what happened there. Anyway, there we are. Here we are on the southern beach, flying like that. A very subtle, small adjustment. So I think you lost me for a little bit there. I'm not sure if you can still hear me fine. Ah, there we go. Righty. Now, let's go down and have a look on Leadwood Road. See what we can find there, where the batelier have come from. Ooh, Brian, in this bush here is a chagra that has just hopped to the back. You probably just saw it move there, everyone. Looked like a brown crowned chagra. Wonderful call. No, I'm doing the black crown chagra. This one goes. Oh dear. Let me just check that for you. Brown crowned chagra. Very nice call. All the chagras have got beautiful calls. Touch. Come on now. There we go. Search. Yes. Right, listen up. Very beautiful call. They also go. That's what I was trying to remember. Right, Wendy has started. Up we go. Through the valley of the Great Mulwati. Lucky we got across the torrent there, don't you think, Brian? Were you nervous there?
I was.
I was too. And we had that wonderful sighting around here yesterday of that old giraffe. Anna-Marie, you say you're very worried about the lack of water with winter starting. Anna-Marie, please don't be worried. The animals here have survived with it for millennia before humans even came across the planet. So they have survived with drought and flood and all manner of other environmental disasters long before human beings came anywhere near this area. Sorry, Brian just broke off a tree like an elephant there. And it's totally normal. And while on our little patch here it might go completely dry, remember that this patch is a very small patch of 8 million acres of land. There are perennial waters. There is a necessary die-off of animals that will occur during very dry times, and that's very necessary for the recovery of the trees and of the grasses and all the other kinds of forage. It's totally normal. It's totally within the bounds of healthy ecosystem function. So Anna-Marie, please don't worry about it. It can be difficult to watch from a human point of view, especially, you know, if things get really dry and animals start to die. It can be very difficult to watch indeed, but it must happen every so often. And we do far more damage in the long term by providing for animals that are struggling in the droughts, because then of course all the forage disappears and eventually we're unable to compensate for the lack of forage. Now there's an impala up ahead, but I was rather hoping for my little favourite sounder of warthogs that live around here. Mrs. Warthog and her 4 piglets. Anyway, we'll have a look at this herd of impala in the meanwhile. Hello impala, please don't run away. You have seen us before, only every day. It's quite a nice impala sighting, they're all very close by. And that impala is browsing, of course. I'm just trying to see what he's browsing on. And Nathan, while we look at them, we want to know what my favourite species of antelope is. Nyala, Nathan, are my favourite species of antelope. I think they are the prettiest. I think they are the most entertaining, and that was confirmed to me. I was a little bit sort of jury out on it. I didn't really have a favourite until I watched 2 Nyala bulls having a fight one day. And it was quite the most impressive thing I think I've ever seen in the wild. The skill with which those two went at each other was absolutely astounding. So I'm going to go with Nyala, and I mean, quite apart from their looks, that fight that I watched was just absolutely unbelievable. There was very little, there was lots of brute force about it, but there was a tremendous amount of coordinated skill involved as the rapier horns kind of parried each other. Just listen to them feeding, everyone. See if you can hear. You'll hear the soft footfalls, and you'll just hear the tearing of vegetation as they pick leaves, grab the odd piece of grass. Scratch each other. It's really nice to hear that.
Almost like rain.
It is like, yeah, it's very, very similar. And in the background, a black-headed oriole. It is, it's very like rain, actually. That's a really good way of describing it. Right, well, that's our herd of impala. We can press on now. I thought I might try and take a picture, but I didn't manage to get one. Right, now Jamie has managed to find out what that elephant was shouting at, and it's going to absolutely astound you.
I don't think this is what the elephants were shouting at, although I wouldn't blame them, because this is one of the biggest millipedes we've seen out here. Look at the size of this thing. It is absolutely enormous.
Gonna bite you.
If this is going to bite me, he won't bite me. Millipedes, although they look really, really creepy with their many, many legs, are actually completely harmless herbivores, also known as shongololos. in South African colloquialism, a millipede. And my millipede is on a mission. I will return him once we're done, and I'm going to put him back in exactly the same spot because it is cold at the moment. Oh dear. Oh no, yes, that's better. Don't go up my sleeve, please. This is incredible. Look at how big he is compared to the size of my hands. He is just enormous. And those incredible segmented bodies, multiple legs. It's the strangest feeling having a millipede walk on you. And when we're done here, I'm actually going to give it to Chelsea to experience for the first time exactly what it feels like. They're little legs moving in waves. I'm going to pop it on the dash so that you can see it in motion. And actually, let me try something. I want you to hear what that sounded like. Sorry, boy. I will return you in a moment. Let's try this. No, not off there. Not off there. That's dangerous. Not sure if you can hear it. Oh, okay. He's too quick for me. Let me pop my microphone back on. Pop him down. Oh no, it's all chaos. It's all chaos. My microphone's disappeared. No. Not that way. You can't go into the car's engine. A millipede. One of the biggest ones I have ever seen. I'm going to put him back. But as you can see, if he were distressed, if he were really, really scared, he would be rolled up in a ball. That is the millipede defense mechanism. So at the moment he's just a bit confused as to how he wound up here and what on earth these strange textures are. But Chelsea, do you want to try before I put him back? Let me try and do this. There you go. Just make sure he doesn't drop off.
The legs move in waves. That's so cool.
Wonderful, eh? I love sharing these moments with people for the first time.
I love how each leg has little grippers. You can feel it gripping.
The wonders of the bush and discovery. Can I grab him from you there?
Sarah's hogging him.
It's all good. Just thought you might enjoy that experience. Let's pop him back though, because at the moment I think he's very, very confused.
I would like to hold a leopard.
You would like to hold a leopard, Liam? I'll try and arrange that. I don't know if it's a good idea, but you never know. Okay. Liam would like to hold a leopard, not a shongololo or a millipede. So he doesn't ask for much, does he? They've got quite sharp claws, Liam. Very big teeth. The leopards. I think I'm content with my millipede, where the worst that can happen when you hold a millipede is that he might defecate on you. This is exactly where we found him. So I'm going to return him there. There you go. One of the biggest millipedes we have seen in a very long time. And off he goes. And you get an idea when you watch them move over those natural obstacles like that, like moving over the trees. You really get an idea of just how useful that segmentation in their bodies really is, in the way that it combines and makes them so incredibly flexible. However, despite James's thoughts, I'm not entirely convinced in his theory that it was what scared the elephants, despite its size. I think we might have other things to go and search for. And there's lioness tracks absolutely everywhere, and I'm really hoping that one of them might still be around. Sham son, you were wondering about whether or not the elephant noise might have been due to an elephant giving birth. It's a it's a possibility, but it's highly, highly unlikely, and I'll tell you why. An elephant birth itself actually tends to be a very quiet affair. Now, any animal that is giving birth out here does not want to draw attention to itself in any way, shape, or form. They're at their absolutely most vulnerable in those moments, and they don't want lions or hyenas, not lions, lions or hyenas or any other predator to be attracted to the sound of it. So actually, elephant birth, much like all the other births, tends to be exceptionally quiet, and the whole herd will gather around and protect that individual. And it is something that I would absolutely love to be able to show you on a live safari, but it would be very, very difficult to do safely, because the elephants become exceptionally protective of that female. And you don't really want to mess with a female elephant protecting her family. I wish I knew what had upset them though. Still trying to figure it out. Aha, well spotted, VM. I can see one. Shall I go forward a bit maybe? I know it's a very tricky angle for poor VM. I'll reposition in a moment, but I just wanted to show you what he pointed out. You go up a little bit and to the right. Sure, I saw one there.
It's underneath the log.
It's underneath the log. Okay, let's go.
I can see a shade there.
Oh, there. They're starting to come through.
That is it.
There we go. There we go. Well spotted on VM's part. A little dwarf mongoose colony. Hello, little mischiefs. And then, associated with them, the yellow-billed hornbills that have come to join in with the party. Very, very close animal relationship this. Very often see the hornbills and dwarf mongoose associating with each other. It's something we've discussed regularly on these drives because we see it regularly. The hornbills provide an extra early warning system from up high, and in return they get the scraps of the dwarf mongoose's kill. Yeah, those elephants are furious. They're still shouting. That was a very angry scream. I'm going to go backwards a little bit so that VM doesn't have to sort of contort himself in order to show you the dwarf mongoose. No, I'm not going to go backwards because Rusty won't go into reverse. No. Come on, Rusty. I have to go forward a bit. That sometimes unjams it. There we go. Here we go. Let's see if they pop out now. They sort of went to ground as we came through, but they might come out. We're just very close to the southern side of Buffelshoek Dam once again. We are on Hippo Pools Road, and I do want to go and do, if these dwarf mongoose don't emerge, which they don't seem to be doing, I do want to go and see what's upsetting these elephants. I just need to take off a layer before I overheat and cook completely. Here we go. Okay, let's go see what's causing this furore. I'm going in very slowly just because I want to just approach this situation quite cautiously. But while we do a poke around every bush and corner to see what's going on, let's head over to James, who's got a very fluffy antelope for you.
There's some waterbuck, everybody, and I was trying desperately to think to myself, but it wasn't that desperate, it was a more sort of consideration about how best to describe their smell, because they do have a very distinctive smell, which in the textbooks has been described as musky. Now, I've always found that slightly unsatisfactory, if you like. And so now I've decided what they smell like. Brian, I'm going to ask you to evaluate my sense of what they smell like. I think they smell like rooibos-flavored leather.
What kind of leather?
Well, a bit like sort of a saddle. Yes?
Yeah.
Mixed with a bit of rooibos. Now, rooibos, of course, is a local tea that has somehow, well, like many flavors around the world, been sort of sold as some kind of delicious tasting elixir. Personally, I think it tastes dreadful. Do you like it, Brian?
I do quite enjoy
Oh,
it.
well, there you go, you quite enjoy it. It's one of those things you either sort of really love or dislike intensely, but it has a very distinctive smell, and I think it's quite a lot like a waterbuck, which the drinkers of rooibos will be very upset about.
I'm not that upset.
Not that upset. You're happy to drink waterbuck tea, are you?
Exactly.
Good. Their white bottoms proudly shining out of the bushes, despite the fact that we've tried to see their front ends. Jamie is sort of quite close to Buffelshoek Dam. We're not too far away from that area either, and I believe there is a large herd of elephants heading towards there. Ah, there we go. Now that's what this one was doing just when we arrived. We arrived and she was lying down only about sort of 3 or 4 meters from the car. She didn't move for a while, but then she decided that she was terrified, and so she got up and ran away. Very heart-shaped nose, of course, which is very distinctive of the waterbuck. And I think they're quite an interesting case here at Djuma, because we don't have huge sort of volumes of water at the moment, and yet the waterbuck population, I don't think, has dropped at all. And they're supposed to be dependent on water, and I'm not convinced that they are at all. Yes, they will certainly run into water if they're threatened and attacked, but these chaps don't have that option. And I think far more than that, they hang around in what we call the sort of ecotone areas, which are the areas between two vegetation types, and they're currently in what we call broad-leafed combretum woodland, but just behind them is a long seep line, and that's dominated by a species of tree called the silver cluster leaf, and they tend to hang around in that ecotone area, which is the sort of change between two vegetation types, like I say, far more than they do hang around the water. Alrighty, let's carry on from them. You can maybe also hear the gentle pattering down of leaves as they die on the trees and fall off them. And I mean, I guess midwinter in many parts of the world, by this time of the season, all of the leaves will have fallen off the trees. But here, it takes a little while. And so only by August, really, once the temperatures started to heat up again, are all the trees completely bare. And then they go through September and October, fairly devoid of leaves. I have to keep convincing myself that I'm correct here, but I mean, we're sitting on round about the 5th of June. I think it's the 5th today, is it the 5th, Brian? Somewhere around there. And, you know, we're only 2 weeks from the middle of winter, from what will, in theory, be the middle of summer, you know, when in the northern hemisphere. It really doesn't feel like that, because we really haven't had a very cold time of it. It will get cold over the next month and a half. But so far it's been fairly mild. Now that is probably a classic case of counting one's chickens. Joey in Australia, very nice link to the question we had about from Marianne about the the potential effects of water and the potential effects of drought. Sorry, Anna Marie, not Marianne. Those are two very different names, made up of the same names. Anyway, Anna Marie, you're worried about water. Joey's saying, well, how common were roan and sable in this area before they started putting dams all over the place? The answer is so common that they used to shoot sable for rations to feed workers in this area. That's how common they were. So massively common. They put the dams in. And your second part of your question is, will they adapt to wetter environments? There are more waterbuck here and a whole lot of elephants. Here's a male waterbuck. Let's just look at him. Oh, beastly animal. There we go. Yeah, you didn't like me saying that to you, did you? That's it. Now, present yourself nicely. You're on camera. So Joey, while we look at this waterbuck bull, the answer is absolutely not. Roan and sable will not get used to wetter environments. It's not the amount of water that's the problem. What the wetter environments did, and it's not a wetter environment, it's just a greater concentration of water with very short distances between each waterhole. And that favored water-dependent species like impala and zebra, which are very good grazing competitors, but they are highly water-dependent. And they just outcompeted the sable and the roan. At the same time, what waterholes do is that predators often tend to concentrate around waterhole areas. And while impala and zebra are adapted to that, because that's how they've always lived, roan and sable are not. They leave their babies hidden in long grass, in long grass plains, and they don't have a smell, which means that they don't move with the herd in the same way that impala babies do straight away and zebra babies do straight away. There's an elephant bull breaking things. You see them there, two of them. And so, Joey, the answer is absolutely not. That is a recently destroyed tree, I think. Until they take away the dams and allow the long grass clearings to re-establish, roan and sable are going to continue to be complete rarities in an area like the Sabi Sands. And I can't see the Sabi Sands ever being any different, because there are so many different landowners with 150,000 different opinions as to what the best ecological management of their little patch happens to be, that I seriously doubt that the Sabi Sands is ever going to have a viable sable or roan population. The Kruger, I think, will be different. That's under one management plan, and I think they will eventually get it right. And I think sable and roan will probably come back in those areas. Maybe not in my lifetime, but maybe in the lifetime of my as yet unborn children. Let me move a little bit forward. I think this is quite a nice young bull, just coming into his kind of power, if you like. Probably almost 20 years old now. Is that any good to you, Brian? It's not great, but let's see if he doesn't come this way. And that's why when people start saying to me, do I think clearings are a good thing, or do I think they're a bad thing? Do I think dams are a good thing? Do I think they're a bad thing? I think unless you're 100% sure, and if you think you're 100% sure, then you're probably deluding yourself. You should just let things be. Because nature's managed very, very well without us for many millions of years. It's much the same, of course, as the predictors of the economy, or people who try and predict what currencies are going to do. It's been shown that sometimes the predictions of astrology have a greater chance of finding out, whether a certain stock's going to do well or badly, than do the analysts paid millions of dollars to find out if they're going to do the same thing. And I mean, that's an established piece of research there. And that's simply because we don't understand the variables, and the same thing goes for biological systems. Hundreds and hundreds of variables that we have absolutely no idea about. And that's why when we change one variable, it can have a knock-on effect that affects hundreds of other species and other variables. And that's exactly what happened with the dams of the Kruger National Park. You just hear that wind coming through. I think there's a bit of a front blowing through. There was quite a lot of cloud this morning. It seems to pretty much cleared up, but there's some high, sort of wispy cotton wools coming over the top. And Kazi Lion, you want to know about flooding. Do we have flooding in this area sometimes? Kazi Lion, we do sometimes, but I mean, it's not... So, yeah, I mean, 2 years ago there was an enormous amount of rainfall, probably 3 times what the yearly average is, and that created flooding, especially down on the rivers. Some of the lodges were kind of washed away completely, and I know Londolozi lost a camp because it was below or they thought it was above the flood line, but it simply wasn't. Areas up in Pafuri, for example, the most beautiful concession in the Kruger National Park in the north, they lost a lodge because of the floods. And so it does happen, but they dissipate, they disappear very quickly. It's not, they really don't often have lasting effects. But Africa, throughout Africa, there is a constant sort of, it's not a fight, but it's the concept of an average rainfall, where if you go to somewhere like the Fertile Crescent in the Middle East, the rainfall varies very little year on year, so you can draw a graph of it, of rainfall versus time, and it varies very little. In most parts of Africa, that graph would look like that. So we alternate between periods of extremes, between droughts and then floods. So you can be sure almost that the next really good rainy season we'll have after this very dry one will probably be much far in excess of the average, and so it'll be very large, and that will have a profound effect on the landscape. But of course, because there are not many people here, and because the landscape drains very quickly, it has very little effect on the animals, other than a positive one. Lots of water really does tend to help animals out here, especially the herbivores. Not so much the carnivores, they quite like the dry. Righty, let's go across to Jamie. I'm not sure where she is. She's quite close to where we are here. But let's find out if she's managed to discern whether it was indeed that millipede that was creating the consternation with her elephants.
Oh, we are circling around Buffelshoek Dam, attempting to figure out what has been happening with the elephants. I found no sign of anything. I did find the elephants. They were on their way towards Buffelshoek Dam, where some very, very nice people were having a leg stretch and a coffee stop. I went back towards them, and I just sort of went to warn them that there was an upset herd of elephants making their way towards the dam, just to let them know. And guess what we got? We got muffins, and I even got a juice box from them. I should do that more often, and go and gate crash the drink stops, the coffee stops. It was amazing. I had the most fantastic chocolate chip muffin. Vim, you had a banana flavoured muffin. It doesn't often happen out here, so that was an exceptionally enjoyable moment. Oh, hi! I'll go that way, shall I?
Give.
What? Give?
Muffin.
We ate them.
Oh,
Yeah, we ate them, I'm sorry.
I was just saying that Brian, not Brian, VM is not shy of muffin.
No.
No.
No, well, I was going to say no when she offered, but Viam beat me to it.
Did he?
Yes, please.
Oh, no, yes, give it. And he devoured it, did he?
Yes,
In 2 bites.
yes.
That's my friend Willem Doornbroek, athlete.
Athlete.
Well done.
Right, let me get
I
out.
inhaled mine. Right, where are you going, James?
I don't really know. To be honest, I'm kind of lost direction.
There was a big herd of elephants going to Buffelshoek Dam,
Okay.
but
Which way did you come on?
both. I've done
One of you just
that one. Okay.
I'll go around them.
Cool. Enjoy. We'll see you.
Fryer.
Yes. Eggs Benedict this morning.
Eggs Benedict.
Cheers, Brian. Bye, Herbert.
Bye, Chelsea.
All the byes, all the farewells. So while James goes to steal my elephant sighting as well, we'll head on and see what else we can find you. And just a funny thing that I have to tell you, and it has to do with Mr. Leo Smith's concept of size or assessment of volume. Most of you know that I've had tremendous problems with my hats recently, in that I cannot find a beanie that actually works out here. So Brent decided that, I mean, the closest we've come was Kirsty's, but we were a bit worried that a bird of prey might swoop down and take it off the top of my head, possibly with some of my head attached to it. So that's been rejected for now, until I find out if Kirsty will be devastated and broken-hearted if I take the pom-pom off her hat. However, Brent gives me his beanie yesterday night, and he says to me, look, it's a little bit big, but you've got a lot of hair, so it should be fine. Bulk it up with hair. Just have a look at this. You've seen Brent wearing my hat yesterday. How on earth did he expect this was going to work? I mean, look, it's quite warm. Very cozy. I can't see anything above the eye line. Although, actually, that quite works for shading as well. Maybe he's not that bad.
Try mine.
Shall I try yours? Oh my goodness. Oh my word. Now we're doing a hat display. How does this work, Viam?
Yeah, just put it on like that.
Just put it on like this. Do I have to stick my...
Yeah, put it on. Yeah, there you go. That's it. That's the one.
This is the one. Right, we've solved it. We have solved the problem. Viam has got the solution, and I feel that Nat Geo Wild would be incredibly chuffed with my choice of headgear. Oh, it's quite a strange feeling, actually, and of course I can't hear anything. Thank you, Viam. I really appreciate it. Time to remove it. And so the search for the appropriate headgear continues. Will Jamie ever find a hat that works? Probably not. Some people are just not really beanie people. Maybe I should just stick to my cap. I think so. I think the cap will just have to stay, and I'll just have to have a cold head. I still haven't given up hope that there is a lion somewhere on this property, and I think I'm going to continue searching for her on the sunset safari before our fireside chat this evening. Exciting times lie ahead for all of you. It's been wonderful to have you on the back of Rusty, as it always is. Thank you to Viam for his fantastic camera work and for his incredible beanie combined sort of balaclava thing. Well done, Chelsea, for surviving your first game drive out here in the wild. And a very big thank you to Kirsty and Jerry in Final Control, the ladies who keep it all together and make things happen. catch up with you this afternoon on the Sunset Safari. In the meantime, have a wonderful day, and we'll see you later. Bye-bye.
So here's the herd of elephants that Jamie was hearing, everybody, and they did make it down to the dam eventually, and they're having their drink. They drink very quickly, you know, and then they'll either have a play in the mud or they'll move off like this herd is starting to do already. Really nice way to close off our drive this morning. Looks like it might be 2 or 3, maybe 2 groups. And just as the buffalo herds are getting larger and larger as the water becomes more and more concentrated, so the chances of seeing large herds of elephants, where that might be one group there in the summertime, they'll now join up with sort of loosely related groups and they'll move together. Keeps them safe, keeps the calves together, and it means that they can go to the water in safety as a big group. And they're talking to each other, and there's lots of little ones here, you know, some very small ones. Joshua, you want to know if it's true or not that elephants have long memories. Joshua, I don't know if they are able to sort of remember faces and that sort of thing. I don't know where the legend comes from, but I do know that they have an incredibly sophisticated kind of mentorship program within a herd. So older ones will teach younger ones where the best grazing and watering spots are, and that's one of the reasons that they live to such a great age and why they live beyond their breeding age. Very few animals actually are able to do that. Now, I think that is because they carry a vast repository of knowledge. Now, whether that extends to remembering, say, an individual human being that they had experience of 10 years previously, I don't know. But they do have an extensive knowledge and memory, and therefore collective memory of the areas in which they live. So that's the kind of best answer I can give you on that. But I do think that they probably have a pretty good way of remembering various other things. And certainly, you know, one of the great indicators of their memory in their, look at that little one there. So sweet. Just trying to keep up with Mum. I've seen 3 or 4 here that are under a year old. Now the command's been given, let's leave, and off they go. It's so amazing how that happens. So Joshua, just quickly on the memory thing, you know, they used to cull elephants in the Kruger National Park, another, in my opinion, mistake of a lack of understanding of the variables involved. But they stopped doing that in 1996, but you know, for about 10 years, the elephants were still very nervous around vehicles, very nervous around any form of human contact. And slowly, that has dissipated. So they retained that memory of danger that human beings represented for 10 years at least after the last cull. And now, I mean, we do get a little complacent with elephants often, but now they are almost completely relaxed around us most of the time. And if they do get upset, it's not because of a memory anymore of the cull, we don't think. Some of the older ones would certainly have been around during that time, but they seem to be pretty much over it. But it took a very long time to regain the elephant's trust. Brilliant. Lovely way to end our drive. The temperature has warmed up very nicely. It's probably sitting at about 22 degrees Celsius now, which will be approaching what, about, it's apparently only 17 degrees Celsius and 63 degrees Fahrenheit. I think Kirsten McLennan Smith is talking to a very false weather station. Absolute nonsense. It's definitely warmer than that. Brian is shaking his head in absolute consternation. You can't believe it, can you, Brian?
I can't.
You can't.
I can't believe just what happened.
Yeah, it's appalling.
It is.
You know, we have to work with information like that. Right, everybody, that's going to be it from us. Big thank you to Brian. Thank you for your efforts today. Lovely suited Sunday thumb. Very nice. And a nice thank you to Kirsten McLennan Smith in the final control with Jerry the Cheesecake, and on the other vehicle, of course, Jamie, Viam and Chelsea. Mostly my thanks to Herbert today for for finding our lion on foot. Thank you very much. Wonderful to have a tracker with us. See you later.